Welcome back to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest. My name's Ben, and in today's episode, we will be previewing round 22 of this Telstra NRL Premiership for season 2021. But before we get into this video, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to stay in the loop of all my content because you dig it and you want to know when I'm dropping new videos, please make sure to subscribe now and please turn on your notifications. And if you like the video, I'd really appreciate a like. Helps me move up in the algorithm rankings, however that stuff works. I'm not a tech guy. Let's get into this week's episode. Before we do, let's have a look at my tips from last week, which were pretty average, to be honest. I only tipped 5 from 8. I had the Knights, the Raiders, Rabbitohs. Didn't have the Sharks, Roosters, or Seagulls. But I did have the Tigers and the Titans. So 5 from 8 there. It's getting a little bit harder to tip. I've had a pretty good tipping season. I haven't been keeping a tally, to be honest. But I've been averaging, I feel, like around the 6 out of 8 mark. And it's getting a little bit harder to tip now because the pretenders and the contenders are really showing themselves. And if they weren't in form before, they're starting to get into form and vice versa. So hopefully I can stay, at that 6 from 8 mark for the remainder of the season. First game this week, tomorrow evening, because I'm filming this on a Wednesday, comes to us from, and I've just got to double check the venues here because you see, in my notes on my other computer, I've updated the venues for each of these games. Obviously, we're still playing in Queensland, but unfortunately on the notes that I've got on my laptop here, I have not updated them. So, the Storm, the Raiders, they are playing at Sunshine Coast Stadium, which is the spiritual home of the Melbourne Storm in Queensland. In terms of form for both these sides, obviously both winners last week. Storm beat the Seagulls 28-18. They just further rubber stamped their premiership credentials with that win. And they did it against a team which I think they could come up against in the grand final in the Manly Warringah Seagulls. I expect Manly to only be better from that loss. To be honest, that game could have gone either way. But the problem is, if you're playing Melbourne and you give them opportunities, which is what Manly did in that second half, they gave away ball poorly. They're going to capitalise on those opportunities. And you can go from being in a level situation, which is essentially where they were at in that second half, to just being either blown off the park or blown enough away off the park that you don't win the contest. For the Raiders, they beat the Dragons. It was a game they needed to win to keep their top 8 aspirations alive. Tom Starling once again proved to be that X factor for the Raiders. He continues to come in to the game with about 15-20 minutes left in that first half. And I know it's that spark off the bench that kind of gets things moving, and I believe the rationale behind having him coming off the bench opposed to playing 80 minutes with, Josh Hodgson potentially playing at lock for, 60 to 80 minutes, or maybe even starting at halfback, with all due respect to Sam Williams, who's a great servant of the club. Hodjo, I believe, would be a playmaking upgrade. That's just my opinion. But the rationale is they want Hodgson to absorb that punishment early on. That's why they bring Starling on late. I think play him 80 minutes. 80 minutes of Tom Starling. He's got the fitness to do it. He adds a spark to that side that they don't have when he's not on the park. Things start to happen around Tom Starling. Anyway, I won't say too much more about Tom Starling because I've got a serious man crush on him and I don't want to sound like it's edging on creepy, and I don't want Tom, if he ever happened to watch this, to think that maybe he needs to check his deadbolts at night and maybe change his phone number. Not that I know your number, Tommy. Or do I? I'm a weirdo. Team changes for the Storm. Felice Kafusi and Nelson Asofa Solomona return to the side, which pushes Tom Eisenhuth and Tepai Maroa to the reserves. For the Raiders, big inclusion here. Bailey Simonson returns from injury via the wing, so Rappa retains his spot at fullback. Sammy Velamaya goes to the reserves, and Sia Soliola joins the bench, which pushes Elijah Anderson out of the side. In the head-to-head market here, you'll get $1.04 for the Storm, not surprising, and $10 for the Raiders. That being said, now, Raiders have won 4 out of their last 5 clashes. You could say they're in form. They're not in their greatest form. if you think the Raiders are a chance of winning, they've got a really good record over Melbourne over the past 3 or 4 years. So it's worth a punt at $10. Come on. In the anytime try scorer market, I've gone all Melbourne try scorers here. I've gone Justin Olam at $1.90. Interestingly enough, Buzz Rothfield came out with his Dally M predicted team of the year, and Justin Olam was not there in the centres. I found that quite perplexing, given that for mine, look, if you want to say Joey Manu's the best centre in the game, that's a fair call. Matt Burton might be up there. He's been outstanding from the centres and obviously deputising at 5'8" where opportunities have allowed. Played a bit there this season. I don't know how Justin Olam's not in the equation there. In fact, I'd have him ahead of Matt Burton. He and Joey Manu would be my centres. Anyway, if you like him to score a try anytime in the game, $1.90. Remus Smith, $1.85. And Dean Eremaya, I like him at $1.52. I'm tipping the Storm to win by 10 points. So if you like them in that 1 to 12 margin, you'll get $4. Second game of the round comes to us from, and again, I'm going to have to double check here, Suncorp Stadium, where the Dragons take on the Panthers. Last week, the Dragons went down to the Raiders. We chatted a little bit about that game just earlier. 12 to 20. It was 12-all at halftime. Both sides were well and truly in the contest at that point. But the Raiders did what the good sides do, is they went on with it, and the Dragons were really kind of not able to kind of gain any kind of ascendancy in that second half, even though the stats were quite favourable to them from an attacking perspective. For the Panthers, they edged out the Roosters 20 to 14. You know, despite being down Nathan Cleary, they have found a way to win. Earlier in the season when he was out, you know, with origin duties and obviously rolling into that injury, they found it tough to win without him, especially without Luai too. When they had both of them out of the side, it was much harder. But they found a way to win without Cleary, which has got to be pleasing. I believe he may be back this week. He's on the extended bench for the Panthers. In terms of team changes for both sides, please refer to the team list graphic because there were just too many changes to go through. In the betting stakes, you'll get $6.50 for the Dragons in the head-to-head, $1.10 for the Panthers. Sounds about right to me. I don't think the Dragons are going to be in this contest at all. Anytime try scorer market, I'm favouring the Panthers here, and I've thrown a Dragons player in there. I've thrown Zach Lomax in at $3.30. I think if the Dragons are going to score, it's going to come from, you know, it's going to come from he or you know, a Jack Bird or a Matt Feeney on the wing. But I like Zach Lomax at $3.30. Matt Burton at $2.25. He's been setting the world on fire with his heroics. And then Charlie Staines at $1.50. Not great value for Charlie Staines, but look, he's a great chance of scoring a try. Maybe whack that into a multi. I'm tipping the Panthers to win this one by 30. And if you like the Penrith Panthers 13+, you'll get $1.48 for that. So maybe whack that one into a multi. I think it's all but a certainty, that one. Second game comes to us also from Suncorp Stadium. So that's a hell of a doubleheader that you're getting there. Broncos, Roosters. Broncos last start losers to the Knights, 20 to 28. They left their run a little bit late in that game. They managed to score 2 tries in the last 15 minutes, which kind of just cushioned the blow, but Newcastle were good enough to get that win. They're in very good form at the moment, the Knights. Roosters went down to the Panthers in a close one. It was their first loss in 5 weeks, and when you put that into the context of the Sydney Roosters season and all the adversity that they've had, I know the naysayers will come out and go, oh, you know, the Sydney Roosters have had all the advantages in the NRL over the past, 20 odd years in terms of being able to recruit the best talent and somehow being able to manage all these great players under the salary cap. Well, what I'd say to that is this. Given all the adversity they've faced this year, both their captains retired for medical reasons. They've had, long-term injuries to some key talent in the forwards and in the backs, and they've still managed to be, up there in the top half of the top 8 and continually turn up, and against great sides, for them to only lose by 6 points makes me think that when they can get a little bit more talent back on the park, I'm not quite sure who's expected to come back for them over the next few weeks running into the finals, but with a fuller complement of players, the Roosters are a very dangerous proposition come finals time. And I feel like I'm repeating myself. I feel like I've said this on this show before, but I honestly believe it. And as someone who's not a fan of the Roosters, I'm a great admirer of their club. I think they're a fantastic club. In terms of team changes for both sides, please refer to the team list. There's a lot of changes in the betting markets. $4.40 you will get for the Roosters, which I think is for the Broncos. Sorry, you'll get $4.40, which I think is good odds. I feel like this is a clash. I mean, they played each other earlier in the year, and Brisbane were able to get up against the Roosters. Hey, they might be able to do it again. $4.40 for them. $1.20 for the Panthers. In the anytime try score markets, Adam Kieran at $2.25 I think is a good bet. He's becoming quite a bit of a player. I'm not to say that he wasn't a player before, but he's good. He's a good in there. They've got a good player there, good pickup. Satili Tupanua, $2.30. I like him scoring off an edge. And Selwyn Cobbo, the teen sensation for the Broncos, $3.10. In the margin betting, if you like Roosters 13+, which I do, $1.68. And I'm tipping the Roosters to win by 14 points. First Saturday game comes to us from, and again, I'm just going to confirm this one. I believe it's Cbus Stupa Stadium. Cbus Stupa Stadium. Stupid Stadium. Cbus Super Stadium. It really is super. And shout out, speaking of Cbus Stupa. Gosh, now I've got it in my head. I'm going to keep saying Stupa. In speaking of Cbus Super Stadium, which is the home ground of the Gold Coast Titans, I just want to give a shout out to the Don, Anthony Don, who's announced his retirement at the end of the season. I'm not quite sure if it's purely to do with his age, or if it's just the fact that he's finding it very difficult to get himself into the 17. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is there, but whatever it is, thank you for all the memories, Anthony Don. You've been a great servant to the Gold Coast Titans, a player who didn't hit those dizzying heights of representative football at state of origin and international level, but certainly a very good servant and a very, very solid and good winger for the last decade or so. So shout out to the Don and enjoy your retirement. So let's talk about the actual matchup. Rabbitohs Titans, 3 p.m. from Cbus. In terms of the form guide for both these sides, very good. Both teams are in form. Rabbitohs destroyed the Eels 40-12, and they really flexed their premiership credentials in that win. Josh Mansour and Jackson Paulo both scored doubles. I'm just blown away by how many points the Rabbitohs can score. They have conceded lots of points at times this season, but they've really curbed that over the last month or so. They've really reduced the amount of points they're scoring in a game, even though they are conceding in a game, even though they are still scoring a lot of points. It's not really the point when come finals, because as we've discussed before, if you're going to concede 24 to 30 points against the top side, you're gonna need to score a lot more points than that to win a game. If it's against a Penrith Panthers, a Melbourne Storm, Sydney Roosters, these sorts of clubs, they're really going to punish you. Titans beat the Cowboys 36-14. In winning that game, they leapfrogged the Knights and the Raiders into 7th spot, which was a really big win for them. David Fifita continues his great form. He notched up his 14th try of the season, which puts him to the top of the try scorers list for the forwards. The second best try scoring forward in the competition is Tupanua from the Roosters on 11, so he's 3 ahead of that. Outstanding numbers there. I mean, those are winger numbers there with a few rounds to go in the season. So good on David Fifita. Great to see him in form. In terms of team changes, for the Rabbitohs, no changes for them from the side that thumped the Eels last week. And for the Titans, Tyrone Peachey returns from suspension and pushes Aaron Clark out of the 17. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $1.15 for the Rabbitohs and $5.25 for the Titans. Try-scorer market, I like Josh Mansour at $1.48, Dane Gagai at $1.95, and for the Titans, Tino Fa'asua-Maliawi, my boy, at $6. I am tipping this to be a close one and the Rabbitohs to win by 7 points. And if you like the 1 to 12 market, you'll get $3.40 for the Bunnies. Second game of Super Saturday comes to us from Queensland Country Bank Stadium, where the North Queensland Cowboys take on the West Tigers. Last start, the Cowboys went down to the Titans, as I mentioned just before, 14-36. They're well and truly out of the finals equation now. I think for the Cowboys, it's just about finishing this season with some good momentum to hopefully bring into season 2022. And I don't know if they've got some younger talent that they still haven't blooded yet, but this would be a good opportunity to do that. Cowboys are still a side that's, I think, struggling to find its identity and to build on that and build for the future. So maybe more time spent on planning for the future now than being concerned about making the finals, because it's not going to happen. I'm not saying give up, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Cowboys. Tigers last week, they won 28-16 against the Bulldogs in a game that really didn't mean anything in the context of the season. I think mathematically, Tigers can still make the finals, but it's not going to happen for them. With all due respect. You notice I say that every time I'm bagging a team, but with all due respect, I think you know you're not going to make the 8. Ken Mamalo bagged a double, which was, I guess, a highlight for that game. In terms of team changes, there's a bunch of changes for the Cowboys, so please refer to the team list. And for the Tigers, they are unchanged from the 17 that made easy pickings of the Dogs last week. In the head-to-head market, you will get $2.35 for the Cowboys and $1.58 for the Tigers. I don't really know about those odds. I feel like this is a pretty even encounter, and it's one of those ones where I feel like it's impossible to pick. Anything could happen in this game. Anything could happen. In terms of anytime try scorers, I like Kyle Felt at $1.72. Tom Dearden, who's made a habit of finding the line for the Cowboys at $3.10. I think that's a great bet. And Ken Mamalo at $1.65. Maybe whack that one into a multi just to up the value there. If you like the Cowboys 1 to 12, which I do, at $3.80, I think that's a good bet. And I am tipping the Cowboys to win by 4 points. Last game of Super Saturday comes to us from Sunshine Coast Stadium, where the Manly Warringah Seagulls take on the Parramatta Eels in what I'm hoping is going to be a cracking encounter. I want to see the Eels return to some form here, but I'm not quite sure what Eels outfit we're going to see this weekend. In terms of the form guide, both sides lost their respective clashes last week. Seagulls went down to the Storm 18-28. It was 8-all at halftime, and the Seagulls had opportunities to win the game, really, or to at least get on top of the Storm for a period of time. But unfortunately, their poor discipline and ball security just kind of handed the Storm the game to an extent. And for the Eels, well, I mean, they were really never in this contest. I mean, they failed to score a single point until the 56th minute of the game. It was a flogging. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't a performance that you would expect from a top 4 side. Parramatta are really not playing like a top 4 side at the moment, and they're going to have to dig deep this week because it could be really ugly against the Seagulls, because they're going to be fuming after that loss, that missed opportunity against the Storm last week, and they are going to take it out on the luckless Parramatta Eels, is my tip. In terms of team changes for the Seagulls, Taniela Paseka is out for 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle injury, and Sipley is suspended for 1 week, which means Josh Alloway starts at prop, and Kurt DeLewis and Curtis Sirinen come onto the interchange bench. For the Eels, heaps of changes. Please refer to the team list. In the head-to-head market, if you like the Seagulls, which I do very much, $1.18 for them and $4.70 for the Eels. In the anytime try scorer market for me, look, it's all Seagulls. Tommy Turbo, $1.58, whack that into a multi. Same with Jason Saab, same value, $1.58. And also Ruben Garrick, $1.58. In the margin betting, Seagulls 13 plus, which I think is all but a certainty, you will get $1.68 for, and I am tipping the Seagulls to win by 30. First Sunday game comes to us from Moreton Daly Stadium in Redcliffe, which is just up the road from me. Got the Warriors playing the Bulldogs. Now, this is a game that really doesn't mean anything in the context of the season, but it would be good to see a good game, just because it's good to see a good game. But who knows what these guys are going to put up. Warriors are in a little bit more form than the Bulldogs, obviously. Warriors last week beat the Sharks 18-16. They got the 2 points, compliments of a Reece Walsh penalty goal in the 68th minute. But unfortunately for the Warriors, what they're going to be most remembered for from this clash is Kane Evans's 2 sin binnings as a result of Will Chambers' niggle, sledging, whatever you want to call it, which is very controversial, and I'm actually addressing it in another video this week, so look out for that one. But they got the win. They got the win in a tough contest there, and it was a game that the Sharks really needed to win. And it's a game I'm glad they didn't win as a Raiders fan, because it kind of keeps them a little bit more at arm's length with respect to the making up of the top 8. Bulldogs went down to the Tigers last week. I heard maybe it was Buzz Rothfield saying on NRL 360 that he feels that the Bulldogs have regressed. Look, I couldn't agree more. I feel like they were definitely gaining some momentum kind of midway through the season. They weren't necessarily winning every game. Well, they definitely weren't winning every game, but they were scoring more points and they were definitely in the contest. I think they're kind of a victim of not knowing who they are as a side yet, especially considering they've got some really good prospects coming into their system next year, in terms of Matt Burton, Josh Adokar, Brent Naden. Who else have they got coming? They've got some great players coming to the club. And also, they're very unsettled with their halves pairings at the moment. They've chopped and changed. It's been a battle between them and the Broncos as to who can chop and change their halves more. A lot of uncertainty from players like Kyle Flanagan, who I'm hearing might be returning to the Sharks. It's hard for a young halfback to have any confidence when he knows if he has an off game, even slightly off, he might get axed the next week. Doesn't have the opportunity to kind of cement himself into a side. So it's something that Trent Barrett's going to have to work on and find a solution to if they're going to have any success in the next few years. This season's a write-off. Good opportunity to build for the future. In terms of team changes for both sides, please refer to the team list because there's a stack. In the head-to-head market, when we're looking at the betting odds here, you'll get $1.32 for the Warriors and $3.30 for the Bulldogs. I think that's about right. In terms of first anytime try scorers, Reece Walsh, I like him at $1.80. He seems to score every game just about. DWZ, Daly Watene-Zelezniak, $1.62. He's finding the line a little bit lately. And Nick Meaney for the Bulldogs. I really like that guy. He seems to try his heart out every week, and he knows how to find the white line. $2.30. My tip in this game is the Warriors to win by 10. And if you like that 1-12 margin for them, you'll get $3. Last game of the round, which also comes to us, I believe, let me just double check, from Redcliffe, Moreton Daly Stadium. We've got the Sharks playing the Knights, and this is a clash that could have a really big bearing on the makeup of the top 8 come the end of this round, at the very least. Sharks just edged out by the Warriors last week. Knights beat the Broncos 28-20. It was the win that they needed to keep touch with that top 8. In terms of team changes, again, I'm not being lazy here, but where there's a bunch of team changes, I don't want to hear my own voice going through them all, so that's why I asked you to refer to the nice graphic that I make up for you. In the betting market, if you like the Sharks head-to-head, you'll get $2.75 for them, $1.44 for the Knights. In the anytime try scorer market, Heimel Hunt will get you $1.75. I like him for a try. Jaden Brayley's my smoky there, $4 from dummy half. And Will Kennedy, big fan of this guy, $2.40. I think he should be shorter odds there because this guy really likes to score a try. He's their best player. As far as I'm concerned, he is their best player. I don't care if Sean Johnson is on the field and they're on the field at the same time. He's still the best player in that team. I love Will Kennedy. He's got a really big future in the game. Interesting to see what happens next year when Nico Hines joins the Sharks. I believe that he is still turning up to the Sharks as a 5'8", but if they were ever considering playing him at fullback, I wouldn't move Will Kennedy. I think he's just too good in that position. Nico Hines has definitely got to stick to 5'8". He's got to settle for 5'8". In the betting market, if you like a margin, if you like a good margin bet, and you like Knights 1 to 12, $3 for them. And I am tipping the Knights to win this one by 8 points. I think the Knights are building here. They've got their personnel back on the field, and they are going to make a really strong push for the top 8. Maybe finish as high as 7th, or maybe they can even finish 6th. It all depends on I guess, what Parramatta does between now and the end of the season, because there's a distinct possibility that Parramatta won't win another game. I just don't know what's going on there. But yeah, really favouring the Knights in this one. And that's been it for this video, for this week's NRL preview show. Again, if you like this video, please give me a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section too. Let me know what you think about my tips and my bets. And I'll see you in the next video.